Welcome to the Pharmacy Frontiers podcast. We're excited to come to you today with Scott Knoer with a little discussion about how we can be radical in our pharmacy leadership. Let me remind everyone that the Pharmacy Frontier podcast is available for streaming on your favorite streaming app, whether it be Apple, Podbean, Spotify, or YouTube. The Pharmacy Frontier podcast is a podcast dedicated to the profession of pharmacy. The comments and opinions shared today are those of our hosts and our guests, are not official statements of the MPA, Mercy Health, Mitchell Pharmacy, nor Mercy One. I'm Daniel Good, and I serve as your co-host today along with Tim Mitchell. And now we welcome Scott Knoer, who is, many recognize, the past Chief Pharmacy Officer at the Cleveland Clinic, the past CEO at APHA, and now the current Pharmacy Patriot and CPO at Mercy One in Iowa. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you very much, Daniel. It's good to see you again. And Tim, I know we've connected over the years, but never through video, so it's nice to meet you too, my friend.
Well, we love having you on, and appreciate you taking the time to spend some time to chat with our listeners. So
yeah, and Daniel, the only thing you missed there is I did a stint in industry as well. I was Chief Pharmacy and Innovation Officer for Hims and Hers as well. So I've been around the block in pharmacy.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
Well, I know that you have your roots here in the Midwest, but you've also taken your talents across the country and have influenced many from east to west, and I dare say probably international in your times traveled across the world as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And when Cleveland Clinic was an amazing opportunity, and a couple of things we did there for an international perspective. We built a hospital in Abu Dhabi, and I worked with Osama Tabara, who's phenomenal. He still has a big CE company. He runs IVPN network. And, we had great pharmacy services there. We built a hospital in London. It didn't open before I left, but I hired the team for that as well. And yeah, China, Japan, Italy, I've kind of spoken all around the world.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. I didn't know this about you. So I'm learning all kinds of things and I'm being inspired here. That's absolutely cool. So if you can kind of tell us, how did you get your start in pharmacy? I mean, I don't know a lot about your history. Where did you, it sounds like you made your roots there. So how did you start in pharmacy, and what inspired you to do the things you're doing today?
That's a great question. And it's kind of a long story, so I'll try to abbreviate it.
All right. We got 25 minutes.
I wanted to be a pharmacist. My dad wasn't a pharmacist. Now my son is a pharmacist, but so I actually, boy, it's a long story. So I was in ROTC at Creighton University, and I was like this. I won an Army scholarship, but I didn't sign the paperwork yet, and I had a spontaneous pneumothorax, which made me ineligible for military service. However, my wife my first wife, she was in ROTC and she was on a scholarship, and she didn't get kicked out of the Army. So she was, I say forced active duty. The idea was I was going to be active duty. I was going to be a little general somewhere. She was going to do the reserves, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, and follow me around. Well, I got kicked out, and she got, I say, forced active duty. When you sign with the Army, they can do it. At the time it was competitive. She didn't expect to get active duty. We were young. We said, heck, we don't have any kids, whatever, let's put in for Germany. So I put in we put in for Germany, and she got shipped to Germany. I didn't speak German, and I'm like, what am I going to do now? I had a job. This is where relationships are important. A buddy of mine that I'd known since probably kindergarten, we used to light candles at church together. He was stationed at Rhein-Main Air Base, and his wife worked, they call it on the economy. So she worked for Wedgwood, which is a British fine bone china company. And they used to sell a lot of china. Now that market has completely been decimated because, people my age, we used to register for china, and, Aunt Carolyn would get me a 5-piece place, but millennials don't buy china. So that business is dead. But at the time, officers' wives had a lot of teas, and we sold a lot of china. So I got a job managing the warehouse. Basically I took big boxes of china, put them in little boxes, and put UPS labels on them and shipped them around. We had 32 china shops in Germany, Italy, Belgium, and Greece. So anyway, my friend's wife worked for it. I got a job. And then the first Gulf War happened. When a war happens, they stop all duties changes. So people just stay in place. Okay. So when they lifted that, it was all, it was a little emasculating, right? You know, I was an Army wife, basically. I had to,
Yeah.
my wife's social security number for everything. I really didn't have my own identity. But then everyone who worked there, except for the CFO, who was German, they were all military wives like me. And their husbands all got sent away. And I was 23 years old, and I wound up in charge of a division. We sold $20 million to China. I was there from 89 to 92. And, you know, the one year we had a great year, and we flew everyone to Paris. I'm in Paris. I'm 23 years old. I got to call London and Frankfurt thinking I'm so cool. But then I had some of the prerequisites of pharmacy out of the way. My little brother came to visit me like 3 times. He was a pharmacist. He worked at Walgreens. I'm like, retail management background, pharmacy. I want to go to pharmacy school, and I'll go manage 100 Walgreens. Well, I worked at Walgreens for about 2 weeks, and I decided retail chain pharmacy wasn't for me. So I talked to Jim Dubé, who was the director of pharmacy at Nebraska at the time. I said, Jim, you're a chief at an academic medical center. How do I do that? He told me about residencies. I did a 2-year residency and master's degree in pharmacy administration at Kansas. So I got into pharmacy because I had a business background, and I wanted to, you know, look for a niche there. So it's a little bit different background. I tell you, I give long answers to short questions. We only got 25 minutes. I'll try to do better.
Well, I thought that was a great answer.
Sometimes I give those stories and I forgot what the question was. So I might come back to you and I'll get off on a tangent. So you might have to remind me.
It seems like it's more than just a job for you. It almost seems like it's more than a career for you. It really is a passion. Your passion for leadership, your passion for civic involvement is something that others really are trying to emulate. So how did you choose to be so active?
You know, Daniel, that's a good question. I just can't turn it off. I don't know. I'm wired that way, you know? And, you know, as I'm getting older, I'm trying to figure out what's that balance. A lot of people have told me I'm unbalanced, you know? So,
hey, we all are.
But seriously, you know, for a while I was taught, because I talk to students a lot about leadership, and, you know, millennials and all want to know work-life balance. What I used to tell them is, I like to call it work-life integration, right? Because, God, I have a lot of friends who are pharmacists. I mean, I know people for decades. Daniel, how long have I known you? Have I known you since I was in Kansas?
Right, since 96, yeah.
So, you know, and so I got friends and family. I have been trying to build up a little bit of network outside of pharmacy, because I'm like, I probably have a couple friends who aren't pharmacists, you know, but now I do, you know, so, it's just, I'm wired that way, you know. So I came to Iowa, and Kate called, and we had a PBM bill, and I'm like, I'm back in the fight, man. I didn't win on the national level. I'm sorry. I apologize to everyone. My days at APHA, I did not get PBM reform. I did not get provider status. We did a lot of stuff. We moved a little closer, but I had to leave. So I was like, man, I got to fight PBMs again. And we won. We got an amazing PBM bill in Iowa. Thank you, Kate Gaynor.
Yeah.
And you had a great track record in Ohio as well. You got things passed there as well.
Well, Ohio is where, I mean, you knew about it because you were an owner, Tim, but a lot of the world didn't understand PBMs, and we were ground zero for that. So my super good friend, Antonio Chacha, he was the lobbyist for the Ohio Pharmacists Association. And he calls me and says, Scott, man, my independent pharmacists are upside down on Medicaid. They used to make money on Medicaid patients. I'm like, well, what do you want to do? He says, well, I have this investigative journalist, you know, could you share your data with them? So now here's my disclaimer. So when you sign a PBM contract with a PBM, that is proprietary. So therefore you cannot share that data. So I can neither confirm nor deny that 19 of the 40 pharmacies that gave their data to Ohio, to the reporters in Ohio, were or were not my Cleveland Clinic pharmacies. But what we showed, or what somebody showed, not necessarily my data, was that the PBM stole $224 million in spread pricing in 1 year from Medicaid alone. Think about it. One state Medicaid program, $224 million. How many Medicaid programs are there?
Yeah, do that 50 times.
Everything else. I mean, it's hundreds of billions of dollars. It's mind-boggling. So, yeah, so there, and then with Antonio, you know, I mean, that was just a great partnership. We passed a really good collaborative practice act there as well. And actually, you know, the clinic where I actually changed federal law. It wasn't very big, but we got involved, and for PDUFA, I added some language that during drug shortages, we could compound things for our health systems. It was little, but I was like, okay, I did pass a federal law because I was not able to pass a federal law when I was in DC. And that's probably my biggest regret, that I did not.
Yeah.
I went out there, guys, and I really did. A lot of folks go out to DC and they got big cushy jobs, they make good salaries, and they try to protect their jobs. I didn't do that. Okay. I went out to save pharmacy. I mean, I went out there. I'm like, my God, this is my chance. I'm in DC. I am going to leverage every fiber of my being to fight for the profession. And that's what I did. But
hence why Daniel said you're a radical man. It's just radical. And
we need to get him and Antonio on here together.
Antonio's, I mean, yeah, he's the best. I mean,
I've already sent him a inquiry to see if he'd be interested in being on. He hasn't responded yet. So Scott, if you can, maybe we can
shoot him a text, Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. Send me the link. I'll text him. So dude, they had me on.
Come see these poor little guys. We're trying to get our podcast going, and I know he's got a lot of fish to fry right now. And I follow his posts. He's an amazing person for sure.
He is, and he's still driving it. He's still driving it for sure.
He is, and he's driving it hard.
Well, Tim, so this we'll see how you do. So I was actually, Todd Urey has a pharmacy podcast network.
Yep, knowing well.
He interviewed me when I first got to APHA, and that was the #2 podcast of all business podcasts, not pharmacy that week. Yeah, we kind of blew it up. I may or may not have challenged Larry Merlot to a cage match.
I know. I saw that one.
Yeah. That may or may not have sit well with all of the
Larry got out of the business. You scared him.
Yeah. Well, Larry made a lot more money than I did, so he did something right. And I might have gotten in a little bit of trouble when I may or may not have referred to him as Lucifer Larry on Twitter. Yeah. So maybe I get a little carried away sometimes. I'm passionate.
Hey, you're radical, man. You're radical.
It hasn't always served me so well. It hasn't always served me so well, but I keep doing it.
Yeah. Mention that $220 million just in one state.
That's spread. That's not IR fees. That's not rebates. That's just spread.
It's just the spread, and people don't understand that we have quite a few listeners that are students and some of the early grads and whatnot, and they don't see that as their problem, right? Well, the managers are going to take care of that. Why isn't the government taking care of that? But what amazes me is that the state legislatures, they don't care about the $220 million. They just want to have a budget that's predictable. They don't care how much it is, as long as it's predictable every single year. And that's where we can't convince the other states is, no, you're being robbed blind. And they don't understand, well, no, this is what we're being told. This is what we're being told. How can it be wrong? The insurance company's doing this. And it just drives me back.
But you can't believe the lobbying they brought to stop this bill. So it passed overwhelmingly in the House and the Senate, and the lying people, I mean, they came in and they got the employer groups all worked up by lying to them and saying, we're going to have to, raise rates. Well, the only reason you're going to have to raise rates is protect how much money you've made. They didn't go up in West Virginia. And they just make numbers up. So I think that helped us with it because, the governor, everyone asking us, well, they say this, like, show us the math. And they would not show you the math because there was no math. They just made numbers up.
Right. It's crazy. Absolutely.
Fortunately, the governor saw through it, and I think at some point they get tired of the out-of-state big money coming in. We had Kate Gaynor, recently retired CEO of the Iowa Farm Association, true patriot. She went out in a blaze of pharmacy glory, right? This was her swan song, and she did that. Yep. And she got, I don't know, there were over 100 pharmacists show up the day the House voted on it. And it was great because Brett Barker is a representative here in Iowa. And when they come in, he'd bring them and we'd give them cheers and they'd do selfies and they went in and they voted for the bill. So it was just,
that's amazing.
It was brilliant. I mean, it was well done, Kate.
Well, we have all kinds of fun here in Missouri because we have a big PBM in St. Louis.
Oh, yeah.
The 3 letters ESI. And I will tell you that they live in Jefferson City. So we understand what the lobbying does for sure. So anyhow.
Yeah, the lobbying plus the campaign finances, right? And our former governor, now that he's no longer, I can say it out loud, right? His campaign advisor was funded by the PBMs. And so we nearly did not get our last legislation passed because he was going to veto it. But someone finally got to him and convinced him, let it go on, and it'll become law without your signature. But don't spend your energy on it. But it's just crazy how much influence they have. Crazy.
Well,
so Scott, I want to ask you, we have a lot of younger listeners from the schools of pharmacies around, and you've been in pharmacy for a while, and you've experienced a lot of different, a lot more than what your typical pharmacist would see. What is your advice for students that are just coming out of school? They've got a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and probably a lot of student loans on top of all those blood, sweat, and tears. How do they stay positive in this kind of environment? Tell me what you'd tell people.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting, Tim. Now I'm the old guy, hopefully wise.
Yeah.
I was always the young pup. I was always the aggressive. I was a young buck, driving for it. Now I'm the old guy. But that happens. I guess I'm still upright, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It ebbs and wanes. You can't see my hand because of the brick building. It's kind of like a sine wave over time. We have good times, we have bad times, especially in hospital pharmacy. You got cuts, and then you have growth. We're kind of in the bad times right now, right? And that's primarily because of the evil PBM oligopoly. Actually, I coined that term. The Democratic Party has stolen it from me. I should have trademarked it. You should have. I called the PBMs an oligopoly. If I trademarked it, they'd have to give me a quarter every time they said it, but I didn't. But I think it will get better, right? Right now, chain pharmacy and community pharmacy, Tim. A lot of, how many have closed? And then chains. It was the community pharmacists, independent pharmacists first. But Walgreens getting bought by private equity. They're closing 1,200 stores. CVS, who owns a PBM, the pharmacy part's not profitable. They make plenty of money off the PBM. They're a year into a 2-year plan to close 900 stores. What's the one that went bankrupt? The third largest. Rite Aid. Yeah, So when you have that, and we lived through the good years. You guys are old enough. You remember the good years, the 90s, when it's like there's double-digit increases every year. And I think it was urban legend. I don't know anyone who actually got a BMW, but I always heard people got BMWs.
Me too. I never saw one.
Yeah. So stick with it. It won't be like that. And what we really need to do is have some of these wins. I fought for provider status. That's the root of all our problems. Besides the reimbursement, even the reimbursement, guys, this. We're tied to product, right? We can't bill for our serves. We everyone since whenever, 90, whatever, is going to doctor a pharmacy degree. We know what we're doing, but all we can do is bill for a product, right? So we fought really hard, and I put the group together. They're still meeting, it was Walgreens, CVS, Kroger, NA, CDS, and ASHP. The industry kicked in $1 million each. Our nonprofits kicked in $500,000, and we put that together to that group that is trying to get the ECAPS bill. And we aren't recognized in the Social Security Act as providers, like nurses, nurse practitioners, PAs, nurse midwives. They can all bill for their services. We can't. Until we fix that, we've got a problem. And we work around it. We get, Iowa's got a great standard of care law now. We got collaborative practice. We can still do it, but we can't get paid for it. So we need to keep fighting for that. And unfortunately, I don't think it's good news. I talked to a couple of people who are still on that committee, and it's not in the big, beautiful bill, that I know of. Hopefully I'm wrong. So hang in there, advocate. It's a great profession. It's been good for me. I've made friends around the globe, and but I think, people often ask me about my success, and I've had success and I've had failures and I've learned things and I've grown. But I think the thing is consistent is I have a bias for yes. Okay, right? If I see an opportunity, my bias is to say yes. And that's the first time, so I had an amazing opportunity. I got to be the voice of pharmacy for the country in the media for a while. And that's because I had a bias for yes. Now, the Cleveland Clinic allowed me to speak for them. Do you ever hear any, and nothing against the Mayo people or the Hopkins people, they're very tight with their brands. They do not let people, right? So I got a call from our media relations people, Cleveland Clinic, we had a big media relations department, and they said, hey, Scott, we got a call from somebody. Have you heard anything, have price increases in nitroprusside and isoproterenol that they couldn't pronounce them? But I don't know if you guys remember that. Danny, you do, because you're a hospital guy. The sole source generic, right? Valiant, Marathon. Well, and that was the first time I was quoted in the national media, and it's because I said yes. They're like, oh, like, yes. Because before, guys like Daniel and I were calling each other, we were commiserating and say, oh, this sucks. What are you doing? Nothing. It sucks, right? It just sucks, right? So my advice is try to make it suck less, okay? So we by getting this out in the media, and I think the quote I had in the Wall Street Journal was that if the Cleveland Clinic spent the same amount on, and they're both using cardiac drugs, it's not a fair comparison because Cleveland Clinic's the #1 heart hospital for like 1 million years in a row. So we used a lot of it. But I said, this one hospital, if we use the same amount this year as last year, it cost us like $9 million more. Take that times all the hospitals. And that got a lot of traction. Actually, Ed Silverman, the reporter from Wall Street Journal, they were a runner-up, him and Jonathan Rockoff, runners-up for a Pulitzer Prize in explanatory writing for that. I think they got beat out by some genocide. It's hard to compete with genocide. That's a bad joke. I should not joke. You said we got to do this in one take, so I can't take that back. So jokes, okay. So so genocide is not funny. So anyway, and then so really we stopped that, right? Because then you remember Pharma Bro, Daraprim. You know what I'm talking
Martin
about. Scarelli, and he wanted to go to prison for securities fraud, not for that. But Daraprim, $5,000. But we brought enough, and then success breeds success. So have a bias for yes, success breeds success. So then you're in the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post, New York Times. I've been quoted everywhere over 100 times. And having a bias for yes, and then success breeds success. And so that's what I would say to folks. And we stopped that. Okay, it was so egregious. Valiant lost hundreds of millions of dollars of stock value. Okay, hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And had to change their name to Bosch Pharmaceuticals. I can't claim Erin Fox, by the way, my buddy Erin Fox, who's amazing. She was also quoted in that article. She's continued to be the voice of drug shortages. I've kind of faded out of that, but she's phenomenal. But we stopped that because we exposed it. And that's what I've been trying to do with PBMs is expose it.
Well, I think when I first started connecting with you online and just watching some of the stuff you were doing, you were you and Antonio and a few others were one of the ones that started screaming about what PBMs are doing to us. I mean, we kind of knew it, but and I really do credit people like you for bringing this to the surface and why we're actually making some traction now. So I appreciate all of your efforts. I know sometimes you stick your neck on the line and sometimes it might get chopped off occasionally, but
chopped off, at least once. Yeah. Like a hydra or whatever, right?
Yeah. But that's why we wanted you to be on here, because we feel like,
and I saw it at the clinic, right? And I think it was 2018. Don't quote me on that, but it was $6.5 million in DIR fees that they stole from us, so we couldn't take care of our patients. And PBMs, they're middlemen. Okay, pharmacists provide drugs and clinical counseling. Physicians, nurse practitioners, everybody provides. They don't provide any value. Okay, you need the switch, but that's not worth hundreds of millions of billions of dollars, right?
They're not even doing the switch stuff. They're just
the system.
Yeah, I get it. Well, okay, so we talked about business stuff. You got another question, Daniel?
No, go ahead. Go.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about a hobby. I know you're an avid car guy. Tell me what your favorite vehicles are. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with that and how. I mean, I know you've been doing this for a while because I've been following you for a while.
Well, I don't think I can swing it, man. I'd like to have a ZR1. That's like the 1,100 horsepower Corvette they're coming out with. C8 is a work of art. It is the sexiest car ever. I got a 2013 Shelby GT Mustang. I bought it new in 2012, and I bought it because the 2012 had 500 horsepower, and they bumped it up to 662 horsepower. And so I said, I got to have it. Kind of a quick funny story on that is my little brother was driving, and he may or may not have gotten up to 155 mile an hour on a highway in Ohio, interstate. But, the hood popped, right?
Oh, no.
Now, it caught. It's got that release mechanism, so it caught. But you want to talk about going from, not to, oh, you know, I see the hood coming up over the windshield and everything. It didn't. We shut it down, and that's not a good idea. Do not do that at home, children, because you're more faster than they're going at 65 the other way. I wasn't driving. But it's kind of funny because I called Ford to get a service appointment. I'm like, hey guys, you guys need to fix my hood relation. Like, what happens? I said, well, at 155 it gives. They're like 155. But then I went to a local car show, and a guy pulled up in his new 20 whatever GT 500, and it has integrated hood pins. I'm like, dude, I'm the reason you have those hood pins. I have an old car. It's not Shelby fast. It's 1967 fast. I'm putting a new old motor in it. I have it was a 404 speed, original 404 speed convertible. It's got a tired 350 in it. I found a 400. I'm building it out to the Ram Air specs. It was not a Ram Air car. It'd be worth $350,000. They only made like 49 of them in 67. But so it'll probably be 425, 450 horsepower. Not Shelby fast, but 1967 fast. But yeah, I've got the car gene. It's kind of an addiction. And
well, yeah. So Scott, what was the first car you had? What was your very first car that you were driving?
Oh, it wasn't good. I mean, I didn't grow up with a lot of money here. I had a 1972 Chevy half-ton pickup. The windshield had a huge crack in it. Someone hit a pheasant. The grill was busted out. It had a wood bed with holes rotted through. The tailgate wouldn't stay open. And I still got to where the girls were. So, I mean, it worked for me. But
and I'll bet somebody's still driving that truck somewhere. It's probably got 1 million miles.
Maybe it's here in Iowa. But
yeah.
My first cool car I bought, and the reason I got the 67 Firebird is I bought, and it was stupid because I was going to Creighton for undergrad, living in Iowa winters. I bought a 1968 convertible Firebird with rear-wheel drive, and it was a convertible, and it was like stupid. And I blew up the engine. My buddy, so I gave it away for a fraction of what I paid for it, which wasn't much back then. So I was looking, I found this 67, and I bought it. But now I'm older, maybe wiser. I'm not nearly as stupid as I am. So I consider myself a steward of that car. So my job is to protect it and make it better for the next generation and pass that on.
Well, I appreciate you giving us the education on just a brief amount of cars that I'm sure you've had a lot more cars than what you just mentioned, but I can tell you I'm impressed, very impressed with those. So we're kind of winding things down. I know this is a really, really short type podcast, but we try to keep them within 30 minutes. And what I try to do is I like to try to ask our guests to share something about themselves that maybe not everybody knows. It's something interesting about them. Do you have any thoughts about that?
My usual stock answer to that, I already talked about it. When I was 23 years old, I managed a division of Wedgwood China and managed 32.
Oh, yeah, you already gave that away, so you got to think of something else.
Now that I'm back in Iowa, okay, so I left. I mean, I did Omaha, right, for undergrad and for pharmacy school, but I haven't been in Des Moines till the interview. And I went. For my interview dinner, they took me down past the Veterans Stadium, Memorial Stadium there, and I was like, the last time I was in that building was 1983, and I was wrestling in the Iowa State Wrestling Tournament, 119 pounds. So
oh wow,
I was regular Hulk Hogan back, and I wrestled at state at 105 as a sophomore. High school was 10th, 11th, 12th, I could have beat the guy when I was in 9th grade, but we didn't do that back then, And then I had my first pneumothorax after my junior year, which made me ineligible for wrestling. And I could never wrestle at a Big Ten school, but I could have maybe wrestled at some little school.
Well, that's an interesting fact. I didn't know that about you at all.
You gotta be careful. Give long answers short.
This is great. Well, Scott, we sincerely appreciate you being on the Pharmacy Frontiers podcast with us, and we really appreciate you being a role model for the pharmacy profession, being an advocate and being someone that really demonstrates radical leadership. Your genuine passion for the practice of pharmacy is something that's inspirational, not just to us, but to the next generation as well. So we very much appreciate you being with us.
Well, thank you, Dan. Great to see you again. Tim, nice to finally meet, at least on video, my friend.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get together and maybe have dinner sometime.
Absolutely.
So to our listeners on the podcast today, thanks for joining us. We encourage you to share this podcast with your friends and go out and subscribe to the Pharmacy Frontiers channel so you know when the latest podcasts are dropped. And remember, until next time, it's a good day to be in pharmacy.